Well, I've been commanded to come to the Commandant's Dinner, and now I've been commanded to sit with this group of 6.
Why is that?
Well, it's my camera talking.
Okay.
Well, something with Commandants.
Scanning across the room here, I can sense that most of you are non-believers. Am I correct?
Oh, no, we believe in those things.
So I ask
Spirit
that
believers,
just
I'm not-
for tonight you put that all aside and pretend to believe. It's been a really long time since we've had a commandant present here on Norfolk Island, and I'm going to need everyone's help this evening. I won't ask much. All I'm going to ask from you is 3 things. The first thing is palms on the table, hands on the table, palms down. You 2 over there, sir, hands off that lady's lap. Thank you.
Establishing a colony here on Norfolk Island.
He's very tall, isn't
And as I was the first European and be quite privileged, or feel privileged, that I've seen it fit to turn up here tonight. Oh, yes.
Civilised penal reform at Command Settlement on Norfolk Island. My name is Captain Alexander McConaughey. I'm delighted to be back here on this beautiful island, and particularly honoured to be an invited guest at this Commandant's Dinner.
You lot suck, you! They didn't invite you. Dazed and bleeding, the guard scrambled back into the refuge of the safety of the jail yard.
With bandages.
Not bandages yet, no. So they were red coats because they were bleeding. So, so James, what about the rest of the military? Where were they? Well, the rest of the military are about half a mile away at the military barracks, and also in the buildings that go along what you know as Quality Row, where the officers' dwellings were built, you see. Upon hearing the musket fire, Fines and his men came scrambling out in shirts and caps. Oh! Yes, they had pants on though. Don't worry. Yes, and they were frantically buckling on their cartridge belts. They barely had time to lace up their boots. They formed up and double time down the road to intercept the rebels. And upon forming up, the rebels, upon seeing them, attacked them. And Fines gave the order to fire. And when the black powder smoke had cleared, 15 rebels were seen strewn on the ground, whilst the rest had dived into the sugarcane that grew alongside of the road. Only the remnants of the chain gang stood dumbly in surrender, severely hampered by their irons.
But surely they could catch these prisoners in irons on the run.
Oh yes, well they made every effort to do such. In fact, these men, of course, Napoleon war veterans, of course, or English against Napoleon war veterans, you see, to them it was merely a game or a sport to these men, chasing these unarmed convicts. Any convict who tried escaping out of the bush and headed up towards Longreach Hill was immediately shot. Leaving them to this, Fines led a detachment up the hill up to the agricultural station up at Longreach. For up there he had noticed that the rest of the rebels had set up lookouts where they could look down upon the Kingston settlement and signal to their fellow rebels the beginning of the attack.
Well, come on, James. What chance did they have? This is an agricultural station.
Well, upon hearing the start of the rebellion, the convicts up at the agricultural station burst into the agricultural shed and smashed the main lock to the tool chest and helped themselves to weapons such as pitchforks and axes. About 80 men then in all ran down the road to Flagstaff Hill, pausing only now and again to crack off one another's irons. The Longreach men expected to see an exuberant horde of their fellow rebels surging up to see them, but instead they only saw 2 men. One of these was badly wounded and the other was being closely followed by the redcoats.
I bet they got a shot then.
Yes, well, the soldiers, upon seeing the rebel reinforcements, fired a few shots. Now, we must share. There's a little giggle there, ladies and gentlemen, because unfortunately in one show, instead of me saying they fired a few shots, what came out was they shied a few fots. That's why, instead of Philip Gidley King, we have Philip Giggly King, you see. So he always has a little chuckle, hoping that I'll eventually stuff it up again. When I get to that line, I slow right down and I say they fired a few shots. Yes. Everyone likes bloopers, don't they? Even if it didn't really happen this time around. They fired a few shots, but the range was too great. And so the soldiers closed in on the rebels, taking 28 prisoners in all. And it was with much difficulty that Fines had in stopping his men from bayoneting these rebels on the spot or shooting them. And even though it was reported that Fines himself did show some restraint, he indeed broke his sword as he slapped at the convicts with the flat of it, actually.
Broke his sword.
Broke his sword.
So, James, did they then have the riot under control?
Within a couple of hours, Fines and his men had the Longridge rebels subdued. These men were tied to a cable which the soldiers led down the hill. And by noon, Fines had most of the all of the rebels contained within the main walls of the jail yard. A few were still missing, and the total number of casualties was, well, there was only 5 dead, but about 50 critically to mortally wounded.
What about the guards, James? Any of the guards killed?
No guard was killed until actually the night after the mutiny, when 2 military search parties, whilst out searching for rebels still at large, met in a cornfield. And unfortunately, both believing each other to be rebels, they fired. It's not bloody funny, you know. These are my men. These are my men.
We call it friendly fire now.
Yeah, friendly fire, yes.
Green on
Unfortunately,
green.
you wouldn't believe this. One fluke shot killed both a civilian constable and a young private from the 4th Regiment, Thomas York.
Not Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy York. Yeah, Tommy York. He got the chop, he did. He got the chop. Yes.
You mean the Duke of York?
No, not the Duke. There's no one higher more rank than me, mate.
Don't ever ask that problem again.
Poor Toby. Fines and his men would have set out to make sure these rebels wish they'd never been born after.
Oh, yes. That is for sure. It took the blacksmiths 9 days to make new leg irons for the rebels. Most of these were either double or triple weighted, with the inside of the bezels left deliberately jagged so as to tear the flesh of those who had to wear them. And rebels waiting trial were kept in a yard, half naked, kept in a yard naked and so crowded that only 1/3 of them could sit at any one time.
That is barbaric. There's better ways to discipline them, you know.
Yes. Well, if you thought I was ruthless, I'm nearly proud to say that Fines nearly outdid me.
How do you mean, James?
Well, for the next 5 months, as reports went back and forth to Sydney, and arrangements were being made to send a judge to Norfolk Island, convicts were taught disciplined.
You only said
Oh,
torture.
no, I know. Convicts were disciplined in a state of nudity for 4 hours each day, with their arms extended and their fingers outstretched. And if they showed any the slightest disdain of discomfort or pain about their treatment, they were immediately flogged on the spot or stabbed by the military.
Oh,
I really don't know how humans can treat each other like that.
Yes, but one of the soldiers' amusements, which was actually encouraged by Fines, was to pick one of the prisoners at random and get one of the floggers, for a fig of tobacco, to thrust a stick into the 2 cords that bound the man's arms. This would be twisted round and round until, well, eventually blood would burst from his fingertips.
Oh, that is disgusting.
Yes, but the main torture inevitably was the lash. In the months that followed the mutiny, Fines earned his enduring nickname amongst the convicts, Flogger Fines. So many lashes were dealt out that even the government cats began to unravel, and Fines thought these were ridiculous and ordered new cats be made in order to strike terror into the hardened-minded criminals. The mass floggings would go on well into the evening until eventually the desperate, lawless and listless mob had been beaten into submission.
I do not know how people could bear such pain.
Some of the commoners could not bear the pain, and they would organise group suicides. There they would taunt the soldiers and throw stones at them and thus call forth the fatal ball. You can really stuff that one up too.
Please, Lieutenant, can you describe the outcome of this whole revolting event?
Yes, well, it took Fines and his men 5 months to interrogate the prisoners and take their depositions for trial. The formal charge of mutiny was brought against 137 men. Of these, half were lifers, while another third had sentences of 10 years or more.
Good grief, what an ordeal.
Well, James,
Yes.
I'm sure there's a question on everybody's lips here. Where were you when all this was going on?
Well, as I told you earlier, if you'd been listening, I was fairly unwell, you see, and I was stricken to bed. And it was very fortunate that my wonderful wife, Emily, took great care of me until eventually I was well enough to travel back to Sydney. Unfortunately, not long after arriving back in Sydney, I realised my health would never regain its full composure, I suppose you could say. And unfortunately, my resignation for Commandant here on Norfolk Island followed shortly after.
Oh, that's too bad, James. Not a great way to end your army career, was it?
It must have been hard for your wife, Emily. Tell me, how many kids did you say you had?
We had 10 children, 5 boys and 5 girls.
Woo! We all know what you did in your spare time. Although that's funny, because I thought I read somewhere you had 11 children.
Claire, I think I can clear all that up. Because James hasn't told us about the bastard child he had with the woman other than his wife.
Is that true, James?
You want to get your just desserts, don't you worry about that. Well, in fact, talking about desserts, I think it's good enough. I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope they have my favourite topping tonight.
What's that, James?
Whipped cream.
Well, as long as we're not going to see your sticky date tonight.
You're very lucky the islanders run out of sultana. Spotted dicks not on the menu.
Nice sidestep, Lieutenant. Let's see what they've got for dessert for us.
I'll put an extra $1 of custard on it.
Cruel punishment, degrading conditions should be reduced, and a convict's sense of dignity respected.
Oh, that's very
Are you saying never punished the convicts?
No, Claire, unfortunately punishment was necessary from time to time and was administered where deserved. In an all-male society, I found I was unable to stop the unnatural offence of sodomy, which was prevalent and which I continued to punish by flogging.
sodomy.
Oh, finally,
I'll explain it later.
Finally, McConaughey, you're starting to restore some of my faith in the not completely weak.
So, Alexander, if your methods were so successful, why were you removed from Norfolk Island?
Well, unfortunately, Philip, criticism of my methods in both Sydney and the United Kingdom led Governor Sir George Gibbs to visit Norfolk Island in 1843.
Oh, Gibbs.
Gibbs, yes, I believe he had a land named after him.
Oh. We've got a few Victorians here.
Oh, yes. We know Gippsland.
Yeah, they let him out.
You should have seen the woman that yelled that out last week and then realised what a fool she made.
Gibbs was favourably impressed with the condition of the convicts and the success of my mark system and recommended my system of moral reform be allowed to continue to its end. But unfortunately the order had already been given in the United Kingdom for me to be replaced. I almost fired a few shots, wasn't it?
Yeah, tried a few fots, you did. Get a trapeze and have a hole in the roof and just go through there, but well, there's no 3-story buildings on Norfolk.
I'll go too. Oh, you lit
Can
the
we
fan.
sing a song to you? Don't be mistaken, don't be misled. They're not a horse's ass, they're a horse's head.
Who needs his buccaneers? Why not? Ladies and gentlemen, we certainly hope you enjoyed Commandants of Norfolk Island, or Commandants Dinner, I should say. A very interesting little book to get if you're interested in. There were actually 24 commandants during the first and second penal settlement sort of thing. Of course, some of them had a lot of different agendas. Some of them carried out some certain things once they got here, once they found out they were kind of untouchable, really, sort of thing. So it's quite an interesting book. But your acting pleasure tonight, ladies and gentlemen, playing clairvoyant tonight, we had Michelle Dowling.
The best dress in the place.
Yeah, it just doesn't really suit us.
I know.
Playing Captain Alexander McConaughey, because he has to come on the show to make sure his daughter doesn't play up. We've got Gary Dowling,
They didn't call me Malcolm this week.
No. Well, you got so offended last week, I nearly thought I hurt your feelings. Playing Philip Gidley King also doubles up as a bus driver, as some of you do or do not know. Crook Watson, ladies and gentlemen. My name was Hayden Evans, and I think you know who I was. Well done, Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do go up here and go in a little group sitting sort of thing. If you want to come up and get a photo, if you want to jump on a stool or come in with us sort of too, we're supposed to be at 1.5 metres sort of thing, but yeah, you get rid of the photo evidence. But if anyone wants to come and jump in with us too, you'll have to get someone to take the photo because I don't think your arms are big enough for a selfie.
Come on then.
Hey Susie, get in here!
Look, Susie!
Susie!
On now, so
Yeah, okay.
you can just.
Just hold it.
I was doing a video.
I had the same camera actually. I didn't do it very well.